Thanks everyone for being with me. Never before has there been a more hateful person than Andrew Bolt. Through the despicable Sky network, he is disseminating hate against the Muslim community by labelling every Muslim as a terrorist and suggesting that immigration of all Muslims should cease. He seems to forget that our closest neighbour, Indonesia, is the largest Muslim nation in the world. Bolt points to all the negative statements and protests which have been held around the world and ignores the thousands of peaceful Palestinian protests in what can only be described as a hateful tirade of misinformation and contempt for the Palestinian people.
From Holland, more evidence that Hamas and its Muslim supporters have made a catastrophic and historic mistake. The famously tolerant Dutch last Wednesday made Geert Wilders the biggest winner of their election with 37 seats. That's 12 more than the second place Green Left Labour coalition. Wilders' secret? Well, not so secret. He promises to ban Muslim immigration. Has done so for years.
But the people are saying enough is enough. Let us reclaim our country. Stop the mass immigration from Islamic countries.
Muslims in many cities of the West, like in London, celebrated. In Australia, for instance, fireworks were let off. A Sydney imam hailed this as a day of pride, to him at least, as supporters praised Allah.
Bolt is fanning the flames of violence against a group of people who have been subjected to a genocide not seen since the Second World War. He is relentless. He is dangerous. We must call him out for the bigoted, heartless bastard he is.
You see, in Europe, the pro-Palestinian protests in cities like London and Paris and Rome were massive and threatening. Flares outside this London synagogue, for instance, and the tagging of Jewish homes and the threats of Jew killing. Amsterdam too. They had more of these huge rallies by Muslims and, of course, their supporters in the far left. And they even occupied Schiphol Airport. But what did these protesters think they'd actually achieve with this show of force and these genocidal chants of from the river to the sea, meaning the end of Israel? Did they really think the public would look at all that intimidation and actually, oh yeah, we'll side with you protesters, we'll side with you out of fear? Is that what they thought? That fear would win this for them? Particularly when so many voters would open their doors. Oh my goodness, look at all those angry Muslims in the streets, taking over the city streets for prayers and protests.
His conflation with the horrors of the Hamas attack and the plight of the Palestinian people casts a disparaging view of all Palestinians and reflects the hatred the extreme right wing of politics have for the sanctity of life and the well-being of all people. They reflect the them versus us mentality, which separates people by their religion, colour of their skin and place of origin.
Now, it's true that in Australia, the Albanese government, did tremble. It's trying not to offend the Muslim voters who are dominate key Labor seats in northern Melbourne and Western Sydney. In fact, the government even did a reverse Wilders, handing out 860 temporary visas to Palestinians in just 6 weeks. Almost no possible means of verifying security issues there. I mean, seriously, 860 temporary visas for Palestinians. But check the public's hostile reaction to that. Very few people seem to think, well, we should keep importing more Muslims. In Australia's case, more Muslims in 5 years than there are Jews in this country. But now the fear of seeming racist is actually less for many than the fear of what we're seeing already in our streets. I think it's just shown the world the dead end of Islamist hate. It's made Muslims pay for that by spreading fear of them throughout the West. Even Muslim nations like United Arab Emirates, they disown it. And I think now many people in the West will fear the supporters of Hamas that they're seeing in their own cities. So I think ultimately Hamas will be destroyed by Israel, and the West's immigration intakes of Muslims, they will be tightened. Maybe not openly, but that will happen.
People like Bolt long for a society which is just like them, white, Christian and the sameness. They are unable to acknowledge that the world has changed and that they no longer have the power of the colonisers of this country. Their plan is to define difference, which makes us believe we are losing something rather than gathering the richness which comes from diversity and difference. They want us to believe that we will change and that we will lose our identity. Instead of becoming a society that accepts difference, we will become a society which punishes those who are different, a little like Nazi Germany. This is the world of Bolt. It is dangerous. Instead of building understanding and cohesion, the Bolt world creates hate and mistrust. It is white supremacy. It was evil back in the 1930s. It is still evil today. If you'd like to comment on this video, please do so below. Please subscribe and ring the bell for future notifications. Take care, look after yourselves, and more importantly, be safe.